Hi, I'm Hannah and welcome to my channel. This is the books that I read in July, which admittedly was more than June because I only read one book in June. I did get through 4 books in July and one of them is pretty massive. So I'm trying to get back onto the bandwagon of reading every day, and then we will see how that goes. Maybe I can read 5 books in August. Start with, picked up a new series. This is Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. If you watch the Hannah Swenson films on the Hallmark Channel, this is the book series that's based on. This is a very dated book series. There is terminology in here that they use that you can tell this was not written in the past 5 years. They use derogatory terms and some derogatory language that would not work now. And they talk about things like VCRs. So Gen Z is not going to know anything about this book series. But as far as cozy mysteries go, delightful, loved it. Reminded me a lot of a better Laura Childs, which is saying a lot because I've read everything Laura Childs has done up until a few years ago. So I bought a few more of this book series and I'm going to keep going. Not only do I love the movies, and I was very disappointed when Cameron Matheson left Hallmark to go to the crazy MAGA movie channel, but whatever, I guess they had more money. I really enjoyed Hannah Swenson. Next up, I went to Georgia and I needed a book to read that wasn't the behemoth that I'm in the middle of reading. So I took My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews. And when I tell you that this book was an absolute mind-blowing experience, you spend the whole book thinking you've got this unreliable narrator, and yet everyone around her is an unreliable narrator. And so you're just kind of going, what is happening in this story? Is this even like a real story? Is this something happening in a dream? Is it non-linear? Like, I have so many questions. And are we switching points of view? It all comes together beautifully in a way that's very satisfying, but holy crap. And I gotta be honest with you, the ending, while it came together, I was pissed. Not because of we got shorted on an ending or anything like that, but because of the choices that the character made, I felt like were infuriating. And perhaps that's the point. My husband made that suggestion when I was complaining about how the book ended, that like I was so emotional and so invested in this character's growth, and then she just like, nope, all that growth we were moving towards, we're just gonna stop. My husband was like, maybe that's the point, because people are flawed, and even though you can have like a good option in front of you and an option that is freedom and an option that allows you to grow, that doesn't mean that you're gonna take it. Apologies for that, those were my children. Third book that I read was Eileen. I remember I saw this in some like weird list, probably on Instagram, of books that were weird main characters, all kinds of weirdness. This book is strange, and it's not strange in that the main character does unusual things. Like, she is an odd person. She does things that are illogical, and she does things that don't necessarily make sense to most people. I'm behind that. I get that. The book is strange in that the entirety of the book is leading up to the introduction of this new character, and then that woman suddenly appears, and then the book ends, like in 30 pages. It was like that was a lot of build up for what? And now, don't get me wrong, it's very action-packed there towards the end, and we get to a pretty interesting ending, but the ending doesn't really have anything to do with the non-linear narration that we get throughout the whole book. It's almost like you had the beginning of one story and a different short story, and you just smushed them together and changed the names, and you're like, what has happened here? I don't get it. It's interesting. I really liked some of the ways that she created the atmosphere of discomfort and awkwardness and some of those weird things that people do when no one's watching that she really highlights in this beautifully. There's some really grotesque elements to this. There is really horrible abuse towards children. There's a lot of horrific abuse in this book. So trigger warning for that. I don't know that I would ever recommend this to somebody, if I'm completely honest. Someone would have to be like, sharp objects wasn't dark enough for me. And I'd be like, oh, have you read Eileen? Because that's about where you're going. Not sure that I would ever read that again. But now, The Behemoth, the final book that I read in July and finished, Alchemised, obviously came out last year. It's been sitting on my to be read pile. I just didn't have the soul to bust it open because I knew it was going to take a while to get into. And then my husband listened to it on audiobook and then said, hey, I've already finished it. Why haven't you caught up with me yet? And I go, okay, fine. I'll go ahead and read it now. And then I left it in Spokane when I went to Georgia because I didn't want to lug it around with me through the, 5 airports that I went through and all of the flights and everything. So this stayed home, and eventually I did finish it, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I read it. There were plenty of things to talk about, and I certainly have bothered my husband enough with a lot of my characterizations and criticisms of plot holes or issues that I have found with some of the characters. But as someone who read Manacled ages ago, I felt like I actually was reading a different story, which I appreciated. And as soon as I kind of let myself go from those ties to the previous storytelling, it helped consider it like a separate concept. I don't normally go for like the high magic genre, whatever the genre you would even call this. It's not my jam, but I enjoyed it. I'm glad I read it. It was hard to read. And I don't know if anyone else really felt that way. Like it was emotionally gut-wrenching to read this story. A lot of the things that the characters did that you just had to accept were difficult. And I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure that I loved all of it. No, I didn't love all of it. That's a no. I didn't. But I felt like it was an interesting story. It is over 1,000 pages long, so be aware of that. If I had to pick, I don't know, like I had such a weird month. Because if you think about it, if you stack them up together, you have a cozy mystery novel, you have weird family dynamics, weird interpersonal dynamics, weird relationship and apocalyptic type dynamics. This was the only thing that was normal. This was the only thing where there wasn't like really profound trauma. And she still went through some trauma because she discovered a body. So it was Trauma July. I will be rereading this one way sooner than I would reread any of the other ones. And to be honest, as soon as I finished Alchemised, I immediately jumped into the sequel from this series because I just needed a palate cleanser for a bit. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think I will pick this as my favorite book from July and just kind of leave all of these to sort of rest. Maybe let their antidepressants kick in, and then we'll revisit them in a few years when I've forgotten how traumatizing they are. That was July. I am optimistic about August, and I have some books queued up for the end of the year that I know I want to read like during spooky season or right at Christmas time. So I'm excited about like rounding out the year. But if you've read any of these and you would like to let me know your thoughts on it, please let me know. And I would love any suggestions that you have. If you also found My Sweet Audrina, Eileen, and Alchemised to be a bit wild, and I just need a little bit more cozy romance. I think I just need a cozy romance. Maybe that's just it. No, nothing wild. Let's just have a bit of a moment to decompress. And then we can jump back into like torture and stuff like that down the road. Happy July, happy August, and I'll see you next month. Have a great